Hi, I'm Ian Harris and I'm Chief Executive of the Wine and Spirit Education Trust. And in the 45 years since we were founded, the WSET has educated over 500,000 people worldwide. To celebrate our 45th birthday, we're interviewing many of the students who've been through a WSET qualification just to see how wine and spirit education has affected them in their life and how it will continue to help them in the future.
When I grew up, we didn't really have wine in the house. In those days, it was something that was maybe for people of a different class. It was quite expensive. But I remember walking past an Oddbins in Edinburgh, seeing a sign that said, "Free wine tasting here today." And I dived in, I tasted a £3.29 glass of Terret, made by the Lurton brothers. And it was like a kind of a jolt, like a cattle prod. I literally leapt in the air and thought, this is the most amazing stuff in the world. I can't wait to share it with all my friends. I wonder if it'll help me woo that lovely girl that I've been dreaming about. And indeed it did, because she's now my wife. So wine is love juice, that's a fact.
The world of wines and spirits is innately awesome. If it weren't, we wouldn't have so many people interested in what we do. It's a social lubricant, it gets parties going, it's a cause for celebration in of itself, and opening the door to that for people who have perhaps found it alienating or daunting to begin with, showing that it's something that's very easy to understand and engage with, that's a really satisfying process.
I left school very early, when I was 16, with just the equivalent of a French GCSE, so not much qualification, if you want. So for me, the learning about wine has meant a lot, because suddenly I qualified myself in a field, and also I learned all sorts of a technique, and I show that I could succeed even if at school I didn't.
The thing about WSET is you can start with no knowledge at all, and you can end up you can end up in a great job.
I started as a van boy, just carrying cases for a 16-year-old. Landed quite lucky in that when one of the previous wine buyers left, I knew where things came from, and that's what I started in the buying side.
I remember going into it not really knowing that much about wine, just the basics, and kind of I've drunk some wine when I was younger. Kind of didn't really like it, didn't know what it was all about, and I'd always been in a situation where I sold wine to customers, but hadn't really been that interested in it. Now, ever since I've done my WSET, I find it quite interesting. All the different regions, all the different countries of wine, and now I'm really into wine.
Before I did the WSET, I must admit I didn't drink wine at all, and so now it's an eye-opener, and as I say, that I'm now very picky about what wines I do drink, so it's opened my eyes that way.
I was the opposite to Mag. I drank a hell of a lot of wine but had no idea what I was talking about.
The only time in my entire life when I thought I knew all about wine was the sort of month or two after I'd finished the diploma, and I thought, right, that's it, I'm a wine expert. I know, I don't have to learn anymore now, and of course I've been learning ever since.
This thirst for knowledge that I'd been missing for a long time, I suddenly, it rekindled in me. So the wine encompassed so many things from history, geography, science, everything, and it's very exciting.
The incremental nature of the WSET qualifications means that there's always a point where you can go, that's enough, or now I'm inspired, I want to do more.
I've seen so many people do one of the WSET exams, courses and exams, and then just get hooked. We have one of the buyers at the moment in our team, and we put all of our buyers through level 2. All of my PDMs do the diploma, but I've seen this guy just go from being a very intelligent commercial buyer who will probably do extremely well at Tesco in all sorts of other departments, but all of a sudden he's just hooked on the product, he's hooked on learning more about wine, and he wants to go on and do his diploma, which is great.
It obliged me to study the theory about wine a bit more rather than the practical, and I think it's pretty essential now for people to do it.
Education is so important now, and I think that people are starting to get it. They didn't at one point. I think that people just thought, oh, I can go into a bar and I can make cocktails. but now people, they pride themselves on making really good quality cocktails.
It was really the enthusiasm of the teachers and the informal way with which they inspired a structured way to think about wine. I didn't feel intimidated. I just thought it was excellent, rigorous thought, standardization, but it also encouraged me to go off and get my wings and think about how can I talk about wine in my own way.
I was teaching tutors this week and I was explaining to them, when you're a teacher, you're teaching the same subject every week, but it's never the same, it's different every time because of the students.
I really loved how competitive it was because it was Laura from Serene and me, and I really wanted to do better than her. I really enjoyed that part.
Wine's a good subject because you can go into any supermarket and pick up kind of material to study with, so which you might not be able to do with ancient Egypt. Or
exactly.
So imagine that you are in a I don't know, at Waitrose in the wine island, and you have all these wines around you, and you have just a dinner, you don't know what to pick, and suddenly you just remember something that they said at school, and then you said, probably this one would be just perfect for our dinner.
With doing the course and understanding that, you get perhaps 75% of it, the stuff they're talking about, whereas otherwise you'd probably get about 5.
Yeah.
You'd think, oh, bottles. I understand bottles, corks, and that's about it really.
Tasting wine is what I love and what I enjoy, and I think even just a little bit of knowledge means that you appreciate the wine so much more.
I always get told to try as many wines as I can, and if you've tried them yourself, you're better placed to recommend the wines, especially if you're in the restaurant trade. If you try the wines that you actually sell, you know what you're talking about.
The kind of pretension in the business has dropped quite a bit, and we're trying to make wine and spirits and everything more accessible to everyone. Everyone I've run into in this profession has been very passionate about it. They love talking. They're quite happy to break things down as much as you need them to.
What the WSET does with the very first course, it gives you a proper introduction to wine, a structured introduction, and it scratches the surface of the different topics, and you can go away and you learn something from the very first lesson.
What I really love about being in the industry is that the more you learn, the more you want to learn. So we get to try brand new menus at amazing bars like the Artesian, or the next week we might find ourselves in Cognac, sort of learning about the background, and we travel around, and those moments you just think, wow, this is work.
I love the fact that it changes all the time, so every year there's a new vintage. Older vintages are changing and developing all the time, and you get to explore new areas, new countries, visit new people. It's just absorbing. It's absolutely fantastic.
And it's just a real privilege to be able to visit the producers, talk to them about their wines, taste their wines in these most beautiful regions, and that is one of the real benefits of the wine industry, that wine is just not made in horrible places.
We have fantastic growers who become great friends. We have great customers who also become good friends, and every time we go and visit our growers, we look at each other and say, well, somebody's paying us to do this.
Practically every day I pinch myself that I have an excuse to taste great wine, eat delicious food, travel to beautiful places when I have time, when I'm not updating these books, and meet great people. I mean, the people in the wine business, by and large, are more interesting than the average businessman.
It's a very sociable trade, and that's the one thing which I think really kind of draws me to it, is, there's so many great characters and interesting people and a phenomenal product.
Wine had always been sort of my hobby, my passion, and one day I just decided to turn that hobby into a career.
Wines and spirits has changed my life completely. It has opened up such a career. We were milkmen before, doorstep delivering milk. We were farmers. We were used to being outdoors, but the vineyard, starting the vineyard, making the wine, it's not just a career, it's a lifestyle.
I was a stewardess for 23 years on long haul, never in Manchester for more than 3 days at a time. Now I've got this, and it's the job of my dreams.
For me, what I've learned is of course you can never know everything. There's always new thing. There's always thing. It's impossible, but it's what makes it exciting. So I certainly don't want to stop. I want to carry on learning.
This is the greatest industry there is. I've never really had anything other than great affection and love for pretty much everybody I work with. Everyone's so into it. There's so much passion, and there's so much understanding as well. People are always keen to show you the next big thing or keen to express their own opinion, and it's a really wonderful vibe. I just think what a cool thing to do, to share the thing you love to talk about most with as many people as possible. I feel really lucky.
The world gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You learn a little bit and you think you know a lot, and you learn a bit more and you think you know loads, and then you realise there's more and more to learn. So it just makes personal pleasure of food and wine and dinner and exploring different wines and meeting different people in the wine industry just fun. What a great life.